Millions and millions of cars, as you know, Mercedes and BMW and Volkswagen and many others. And we were restricted from essentially re-restricted from selling cars into the European Union, which is not nice since early 2025 global trade has been reshaped. The automotive industry in particular was one of the sectors most affected by this transformation. US tariffs of up to 50% on steel and aluminum shook production bases and supply chains tomorrow. Monday, tomorrow. What countries will those go on? Everybody steel, including Canada and Mexico. 7 other countries focused on protecting their own industries, with the breakaway from the US turned to Canada, Formula Brazil, Mexico, Australia, France, South Korea, Denmark, Germany. France, South Korea, Denmark and Germany have begun to open the door to Canada through various collaborations. This is because Canada has become a safe harbour for these countries, thanks to new trade agreements as well as its logistics and industrial infrastructure. So is the preference of these countries for Canada, especially in the automotive sector. Just a retaliation against the US. We will examine the details of the latest developments in the world together. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, turn on notifications, and like to be informed about our content. Let's start with Brazil's roadmap. The US imposition of a 25% tax on Brazilian beef in March 2025 put a $128 billion revenue stream at risk when soybeans and ethanol were hit by the same tariffs farmers suffered, but Brazil moved quickly and signed a new $2 billion deal with Canada. This flow of beef to Alberta and Manitoba, soybeans to Saskatoon and ethanol to Quebec, not only saved 5,000 farmers' jobs, but also created hundreds of jobs in Canada. Brazil has also opened up its ethanol byproducts to China. With this move, Brazil's goal was to quickly divert products to other destinations instead of dealing with US tariffs. Mexico has also made a similar change of direction when Mexico imposed a 35% tariff on Mexican auto parts. Production bases such as Ciudad Juarez and Monterrey were hit hard. But thanks to Northern Corridor cooperation, Mexico shifted $8.2 billion worth of auto parts to Ontario. The move revitalized assembly lines in Canadian cities like Windsor and Bempton. Of course, Canadian officials have a concern. This concern is whether Chinese parts will leak through this route yet. The Mexico-Canada partnership has stabilized many factories, preventing them from closing. It has also opened the door for new negotiations on the future of the USMCA. Australia's problem is related to raw materials and energy resources. The US imposed a 30% tariff on iron ore and lithium imports, undermining Australia's mineral wealth in a $3.5 billion deal called the Northern Stars Initiative. Australia diverted its resources to Canadian ports. They fed steel mills in Ontario via Vancouver and Thunder Bay and transported lithium carbonate to Welland for use in electric buses. This secured the jobs of thousands of Australian miners. Canada also strengthened its hand in steel and battery production with this move. As a result, Australia, unable to sell directly to the US, found a second outlet in its northern geography. Let's move on to France's hydrogen sector. The US imposed a 30% tariff on hydrogen electrolyzers, freezing orders from French producers. The solution to the order cancellations lay in a $12 billion infrastructure deal with Canada. This allowed France to export its own hydrogen electrolyzers to the North Train local talent in Canada to use the technology and maintain its own production. The plan is to build 4.5 gigawatt of capacity by 2030. So France is securing its big hydrogen ambitions with a partnership on another continent, in South Korea. The US imposed a 20% tax on lithium-ion modules, weakening the hand of Korean companies in the California market. In response, LG Chem and Samsung SDI signed a $1.7 billion memorandum of understanding with Northvolt Canada as battery modules flowed to Windsor. London and Hamilton, some 3,000 jobs were preserved in Korea, and hundreds of new technicians were trained in Canada. On the other side, LG Energy Solution is planning a new 4680 format battery factory. These steps allow South Korea to continue to keep its competitive battery technology on the global stage through Canada. Denmark's situation concerns renewable energy, when the US imposed a 30% tax on wind turbine components. A chain of cancellations of Danish projects began in response. A $1.5 billion deal with Canada was put in place in April. This opened the door for Danish turbines in regions such as Nova Scotia and Saskatchewan. Danish companies retained 900 jobs, while 100 new positions were created in Canada. Denmark is determined to expand its wind power capacity, but this time it is pursuing an export strategy based on Canada instead of the US. Let's talk about Germany's two-way deal. Germany is Europe's largest economy and the heart of the automotive industry. When the US imposed a 25% tariff on vehicles and parts, thousands of German workers were threatened. So Germany found the solution in signing a $10 billion duty-free auto parts quota. With Canada, key components are now flowing to Canadian plants so that the German assembly line continues to operate unabated. In the meantime, Germany has also managed to secure hydrogen supplies from Canada to increase its clean energy security. This has created a two-way trade volume. The flow of car parts continues uninterrupted, and the hydrogen deal is a plan to offset future energy dependence. All 7 countries have turned to Canada as a hub to avoid American tariffs. Some have started shipping meat and grains, some lithium, some auto parts, some hydrogen, some wind turbines. The common point is the effort to protect production and employment by forming new trade alliances against the protectionist moves of the US. Even countries like Denmark, a renewable energy giant, Australia, a mining specialist, or France, an ambitious hydrogen producer, are moving forward with the motto, "Deal with Canada, bypass." The US, the reason is simple. High taxes erode companies' profit margins and trigger order cancellations in the US market. So how could this new trademark change the global automobile landscape? The automobile industry requires global cooperation, not only in the production of the end product, but also in raw materials, parts, and logistics. In this process, Germany's shift of auto parts exports to Canada and Mexico's move towards the same route through the Northern Corridor may move the assembly lines that were initially expected to take place in the US to Canada. If this trend becomes permanent, American consumers may be introduced to Canadian vehicles or parts, and the share of foreign-made products in the American market may increase. Of course, this could also push the US into new moves. If protectionist policies that favor manufacturing here further alienate European and Asian countries, serious gaps could appear in the US supply chain. Consumers could face higher prices or fewer model choices. Suppliers of materials to factories inside the US could also lose revenue. Therefore, these trade wars may not be one side wins and the other side loses, but mutual damage or a shift to different geographies, considering that even Mexico, which is close to the US, is turning towards a Canadian partnership. The trade map is in a rapid transformation. Still, factors such as the possibility of tariffs changing in the long term or the political atmosphere in the US shifting in a different direction could reshape this picture. For now, it seems that each country has somehow opened doors with Canada to save its own sector. We will see in the coming days whether the sectors caught in the high tariffs will lead to a permanent global shake-up or whether everything will return to normal after a temporary fluctuation. So, what do you think about this issue? Please share your thoughts in the comments. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to be informed about new videos, highlighting how local investment can provide insulation from geopolitical shocks. Yet, the irony is palpable. The move to shield American jobs by penalizing foreign-built cars ends up depriving US workers, dealership employees, parts suppliers, and host communities of business opportunities. And consumers, far from being protected, face reduced choices and higher prices on remaining domestic offerings. In private conversations, senior US officials acknowledged that the policy risked undermining the very objectives it sought to achieve. For Porsche, Lamborghini and Ferrari, the decision to withdraw from the US market is as much about principle as profit. Each brand's identity is forged in a particular place: Stuttgart, Zuffenhausen, Sant'Agata de Bologna, Maranello, and each fears that fracturing production would dilute not only quality but narrative. These are companies built on heritage, innovation, and emotional resonance as much as on sheet metal and horsepower. To compromise that at the altar of tariff arbitrage seemed to the CEOs a Pyrrhic victory. The world's luxury car community faces an uncertain chapter. Will diplomatic channels find a way to roll back or moderate tariff levels? Could Congress intervene to carve out exemptions for high-end, low-volume manufacturers? Or will the absence of marquee European brands from US showrooms become the new normal? For now, collectors and enthusiasts can only wait and in some cases consider private import options that skirt conventional channels at premium cost and legal complexity. Amid the turmoil, one fact stands clear: the automotive landscape has been fundamentally altered. The age-old relationship between American open roads and European performance machines has been severed, at least temporarily. Food and wine festivals that once hosted supercar parades through Napa Valley are now emphasizing vintage and collector vehicles, broadening their scope to include American classics and bespoke coach-built restorations. The narrative has shifted from exclusive marque loyalty to a more inclusive celebration of automotive artistry in all its forms. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, could you leave your comments below and tell us what are your thoughts on luxury car brands leaving the US? Will others follow next? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching and see you next.